Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Damiani. I am the Director of Gift Planning at St. John's University, and I'm also the Director of the McAllen Society, our Legacy Society. And I have the distinct pleasure of speaking to one of our alumna, and it's apropos because we are celebrating Women's History Month. And Kay Devonshire, she is a graduate of University College, 1959. She also received her graduate degree from St. John's in 1964. And she is far away over on the West Coast. The town again, Kay, that we're
Santa
calling
Monica.
from? Beautiful Santa Monica, California.
It's surrounded by Los Angeles on 3 sides and the Pacific Ocean on the 4th.
Beautiful. It must be gorgeous. And I know I'm seeing windows there, and I think you said you lived above, right on the beach. It's a beautiful view from your window?
600 yards back from the beach.
Oh, beautiful.
Small park,
Nice.
lot, and then the beach.
That's
I've
great.
been here 45 years, and it's an apartment.
Wow. Lovely. That's great. Well, California is a beautiful state, and I thank you for joining us today to do our Hello segment as part of our St. John's Gift Planning electronic newsletter. So let's hear a little bit from you and kind of let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? How did you make your way to St. John's? Why did you choose St. John's?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn in Prospect Heights.
Oh, beautiful place.
We had a view of Manhattan. My mother had emigrated from England in 1923 to New York to join her sister, and my father had emigrated from Scotland, where he had been a ship's engineer, and also in 1923, but he went into Boston and eventually got to New York and to Brooklyn, and he met my mother at a party in Manhattan, and they eventually got married at St. Patrick's Cathedral in the rectory.
Oh, wow.
Because Daddy was Presbyterian. And he was already living in Brooklyn, so my mother joined him in Brooklyn and in Prospect Heights, which is a nice part of Brooklyn. It's
It
up near the
is.
park, the library. I was born in Prospect Heights Hospital, and I went to the local parish school, St. Teresa's. Then I went to Bishop McDonald. And
Oh, very nice.
I got a New York State Regents Scholarship, and that permitted me, I couldn't have afforded it otherwise. It permitted me to go to St. John's. I was fed up with going to all-girls schools.
I can relate.
Boys.
Did you grow up near Fort Greene Cemetery?
I know where it is because I used to bicycle over that way, but
Beautiful.
No, I was up near the Brooklyn Museum and the Botanic
Oh, okay, that's lovely over there. Very
I
nice.
walked to Bishop McDonald. I was lucky.
That was very close, yes. Excellent school for girls.
Because it was a reasonable commute, as well as having boys.
Sure, because you went on Skirmhorn Street, so that was
That's
still
right.
in Brooklyn at the time.
Yes. In the law school at that time was George Deukmejian and Mario Cuomo. And we all shared the great big Quonset hut lounge at the back.
Now, there is talk about wearing beanies or having a strict dress code. Was that like that for you when you went to St. John's?
Well, girls were expected to wear dresses in those days. And we looked at, we got dressed up because there were boys. Oh, no, the boys had to wear shirts and, well, they had to wear ties and jackets. And it wasn't until a couple of years after I left that they relaxed the ties business.
Really? Okay, so that was early on.
1962.
Right. And what was it like going to St. John's at Skirmhorn Street? I know they call it the vertical campus.
Hmm. Well, the admin was on the ground floor. The law school was second and third floor. The School of Commerce was fourth, fifth, and sixth. I don't remember about the seventh, but UC must have been seventh and eighth and ninth, and the labs were on the ninth floor. That was the stinky floor. And then on the gym was on the top floor. The gym, the assembly, the stage, everything was up on the top floor. We used to hold the dances there too.
Were all the majors open to women, or were you kind of almost forced to attend University College, or could you have attended the other schools? I don't know at the time, was it College of Business Administration or was it Commerce at the time?
I don't remember how, I think we called it commerce.
Right.
I probably could have gone there if I had applied.
Okay. So it was your choice to attend University College.
Well, I didn't really know much about the whole thing.
Mm.
I
And what
hadn't,
was your major?
well, I started off in English literature and then I added history and I carried on with both. I had a double major and I got into Shakespeare and I took 3 terms of Shakespeare. We started out, money was a problem with me. We started out with tuition was $18 a unit.
It's amazing.
And I took 21 units in the first year, the second semester of the first year. And I had added Shakespeare. And then I went on to the second year and they raised the tuition to $20 a unit. And I got through as much of the courses as I could. And in the fourth year, they raised it to $25 a unit.
Wow.
And by that time, I had completed most of my courses. But I had been I had to work through college and I worked in the Bureau of Testing and Guidance. And they used to give me every intelligence test, knowledge test, personality test that came out. I had to do it. I was a clerk, I was a file clerk, but I did all that too. And in ancient history class in my senior year, I was bragging that I could take any multiple choice test because I practiced. And this young man said, I bet there's one you can't pass. And I was afraid he was going to say the nursing exam. But no, he said the Foreign Service exam. I'd never heard of the Foreign Service. So I said, I'll take it if you will. So he said he would. And I applied and I turned up for the exam and he didn't. I nearly went home. But I thought, what the heck, I'm going to try it. So I got into it and it was the hardest multiple choice test, the hardest knowledge test that I had ever taken. I scored on the history and the literature and the logic. Didn't do so well on the math part. And then I took the French test as well and failed that. But I passed the Foreign Service exam with a score of 73, which is the lowest score I had ever attained on any test. So I thought, I've got to look into this. I started
It's
learning
interesting.
service. Meanwhile, I got an assistantship to the history department in graduate school at St. John's. And there were only two buildings on the campus there. There was the St. John's admin classroom building, and there was the science building. Now, was it called St. Gregory's or St. Thomas? No, it must have been St. Gregory's.
That I don't know.
Well, anyway, the science building is where we had the history classes. And because I'd been on the school newspaper and the school yearbook, the chair of the history department grabbed me for his secretary. I wanted to be a teaching assistant, but no, I had to be the secretary. So I was sort of the organizer too of his office, and I kept the other teaching assistants on time. And we got to be very good friends, the other teaching assistants. One of them was a Maryknoll missionary sister. But we got to be very good friends, and most of us stayed friends, even though eventually the Foreign Service called me, and I had a tour in Washington, and I kept up with the people who I had left behind. After intense French in Washington, 4 months of 6 hours a day, audiolingual,
Wow.
nightmares in French.
It's 4 years of French, so I can sympathize with you. That's a lot.
Wow. I asked for a French-speaking post. I wanted to go to Beirut in Lebanon. And I knew going to France was out of the question, but they wouldn't send me to Lebanon either. Instead, they sent me to London.
And why not Beirut? Why would they send you there?
I don't know.
Do you know? Oh, you don't know.
Didn't need anybody. They didn't need a novice, a junior foreign service. So I went to London, and I realized that I wasn't going to keep my French up in London. You speak English in London.
Right.
And I persuaded someone to let me go to Paris to more audiolingual, and they sent me over for a month. And I had audiolingual, again, 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, plus a few hours on Saturday morning. Maybe it was 9 to 5. We had 2 hours for lunch. And no, it was 9 to 6 with 2 hours for lunch. The French used to take long lunch hours. It was lovely. I took the time to go to the Louvre and other places. I went.
But what a great experience, because here, you're, so to speak, a kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I don't know how much travel you had at that point. Did you travel at all at that point during college?
I had been to England already, because took me to England and Scotland one summer, 1952. And I was so annoyed being sent to London, because it was the one foreign place I had been to.
You had been to, right?
Been to Canada. Regard Canada as foreign. We'd been to Montreal and Quebec.
So was that experience, traveling with your family, sort of put a bug in your head, or really was it that person who came to you and said, I'm going to challenge you to take the foreign affairs test?
It was the fact that my mother and father had left home. Dad had traveled around the world.
Oh, okay.
Engineer. And he went everywhere except Antarctica and Australia.
Oh, wow.
So while I was in the Foreign Service, I resolved I was going to go to Australia. Eventually get there. But anyway, having done 2 years in London, I did ask for Australia, and they sent me to Hong Kong.
Wow, what a great experience.
So I had to turn around and learn some Cantonese, but I was a visa officer in Hong Kong, and there was at the time I was there, had been a very severe drought, and Mao Zedong had also um, brought in the Great Leap Forward, where he was going to have everybody have um, iron foundries in their backyards. So the farmers neglected their fields while they tried to make iron. Meanwhile, there was this drought, and the Cantonese decided they had to move, and they came to Hong Kong in several hundred thousand. And
Wow.
Hong Kong asked the United States and Canada and Australia to take some of these people. Canada and the United States obliged. And I was one of the people who interviewed folks who wanted to go to the United States. We would take people who were sponsored by a brother or sister, a father or mother, aunt or uncle. And that was about it. Um, and we interviewed hundreds of people and gave most of those people visas. There were a few people we didn't, but I passed most of them. And there
It's
were three.
interesting. So was your entire career then foreign service?
Well, up till the time I married a handsome Englishman, yes. I got married in Hong Kong in the Catholic Church, which was just across the street. And most of the visa unit came to the wedding. It was great having everybody there.
That's so neat.
I learned so much about China while I was there. It was great. Wonderful, wonderful people. But anyway, I married John Devonshire, and we lived up the hill. And he worked for the Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, which, among other things, printed the money for Hong Kong at the time. And I expected to have children, but none came. And I thought, well, I'm not going to sit and twiddle my thumbs and play bridge. And I got a job as an economic analyst for the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Company. And I studied trade. The biggest import from the United States into Hong Kong was oranges, which represents gold to the Chinese people.
Right.
But the Vietnam War was going on, and the trade between Hong Kong and Vietnam was astonishing. They were trading with both sides, as well as China, of course. Anyway,
I was going to say that must have been interesting, you being, living in Hong Kong during the entire time.
And then
when did you make it back to the United States?
My husband, time with Hong Kong Bank finished in 1972, and we were given a ticket, a first-class ticket back to England. And I asked him if he wanted to go to England to retire. And he said, not bloody likely. So I said, in that case, I want to go back to the United States. So we took our time about going. We went from Hong Kong to Singapore to Australia, visited his family in Australia. Then we went to the French part of the Pacific, and then we finally came to the United States, where my mother and father were living in Santa Monica, because my mother's confirmation name was Monica. Of course, it's a lovely place by the sea. It's grown up by the sea in Cornwall. And she was happy by the sea in her city. And so my father, unfortunately, was sick unto dying. And my husband and I stayed around to help. And when Daddy died in August of 1973, we realized we couldn't leave my mother alone because I was the only child. And so I looked around for something to do, and I decided I was going to go to UCLA. You know, just like that, I was going to go to UCLA. But with my experience speaking a foreign language, living overseas, I applied to teach English as a second language. And I thought I could get a certificate for teaching, and that would do. But I liked the subject so much. Linguistics is fascinating that I stayed for a master's degree in that subject too. And then I began teaching for Los Angeles Unified School District. I was ready to teach high school, but they put me in with junior high. I wanted to teach at a particular school where there was a large Chinese population. But no, they put me in South Central LA because I was white and I had to teach Mexican kids. Well, I didn't know Spanish.
Hmm.
So I had to turn around and learn Spanish.
You had to learn Spanish. Wow.
And fortunately, I seem to have a sponge for a brain when it comes to languages.
Mm.
So anyway, I stuck it out, but middle school, junior high kids are not my thing. And I quit after 3 semesters. And I had already begun teaching at Santa Monica College. And then I got a job teaching refugees. And adult refugees, this was perfect.
Fascinating.
Because they were Vietnamese.
Oh, perfect.
There were
Yeah, the
also
experience.
Koreans, but I'd been to Cambodia too. And I got on very well with them. And then I finally got tenure, and I taught for LAUSD for about 18 or 19 years.
Wow.
And then I retired.
You know, they say, I mean, at your time, you know, they say that there were barriers for women, but you certainly had a lot of opportunity. And it seems, you know, your career just, you know, flowed into one area into another.
It wasn't easy, but I do talk my things. I like to talk.
No, you really had just such an interesting career, really. It's
has
very
been
fascinating. And you're also a writer. When did you decide to write?
Well, I taught writing. When you're teaching English, you do have to teach writing to people who are learning English. I had to teach composition. So the more I taught them, the more I decided I had to do some writing myself. And I did. It took me a while, but I I am a family historian. I wanted to write about my family, and I also wanted to write about a few of my experiences. I've written articles for family history magazines in England and Scotland and the United States. At one time, I was a member of 5 different family history societies, 3 in
Wow.
Great Britain and 2 in the United States. And it's been fun. When I was in graduate school, we
Sounds it.
had a teacher of American history who got people out looking at churchyards in Queens and looking at the battlefields for the Civil War, actually going over the territory. And that is what you do when you really get into family history. You have to go to churchyards and look at gravestones. And I've plowed my way around muddy churchyards in Scotland, in the Isle of Wight, and Cornwall, and I helped my husband too.
I have to put you in contact with another McCallum member, Marilyn Verna, as she also is into, sort of the genealogy and all of that. And you would probably get along really well. She's been all over Italy with, tracing her family and has uncovered so many family members. But with your entire career and everything, all your experiences, if we had the alumni and the students with us right now, what would be some words of wisdom that you would want to pass on to them? And they're, in
When
the
you get,
midst of their career or considering a career.
you must do something that you really like. You have to be happy in your work. If you're not happy, like I was not happy teaching junior high school, if you're not happy, the best thing for you would be to quit and take up something else as quickly as you possibly can. Because if you're unhappy in a job, you're probably making other people unhappy too.
Mhm.
But if you're
It's
happy in
good.
a
Good
job,
words of
spread
advice.
the happiness around too.
That's so true. That's very true. And before we close, I always ask everyone this question. Um, what word would you use to describe your experience at St. John's University?
Undergraduate school, university, college was fun. I majored in extracurricular activities. But when
I
I got
love
to
it.
graduate school, it was hard work.
That's great. I love it.
I have to do hard.
What extracurricular activities were you involved in at Skirmhorn?
Oh, what wasn't I? Um, the student council, the newspaper, the yearbook, a
Wow.
small sorority. Oh, the concert choir. The concert
Oh,
choir.
you're in the choir too. Great.
Yeah, I was a
God, you have missed St. John's, it sounded like.
yeah.
That's terrific. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your career paths, and all your time at St. John's. It really is fascinating, and I know you're still writing, and you're still a busy bee. I mean, you certainly kept yourself busy, and because of that, I think you had such an interesting life. You were very motivated, and obviously a very intelligent woman. And I'm proud to be part of St. John's alumni with you part of it
I
as
just
well.
have a good memory. That's all.
No, it's great. And I'm so glad that you're part of the McCown Society, and we thank you for establishing a legacy at St. John's. That's really important to us, and we know that anyone that establishes a legacy at St. John's usually means that St. John's is a special, has been a special part of their lives. So,
Yes.
so thank you again for that. We appreciate it. So it was nice chatting with you, Kay.
Thank you, Susan.
I hope you bring more of that California sunshine our way.
The wind is rising.
Is it? Well, we
The
have to get out to California one of these days. That's for sure.
You
When this
did.
all blows over.
You were the only
I
person.
know we all visited, you know, but hopefully we can visit again.
Yes.
That would be nice.
Give my best to the people who were still in my class.
I will. I'll say hello to Frank Pinizzo and John Tatunjan. I know we were talking about them. I'll tell them that you said hello.
Well, John, with John.
Yes, John was in your class, right? Mm-hmm. I'll be sure to tell them that you said hello. Oh, hopefully they're listening.
I hope so too. Hello, hello, guys.
Well, again, hello from Santa Monica, California. We thank you so much for listening. Until next week, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.